hit. I take what's mine, or
I could do that.
rip it undies, or
Only take what's mine. The only version I've got of that though is
that song is giving me and Angry Dad a soft on, mate.
Is it?
I reckon we should revamp that next week. Thanks, mate.
Okay.
You don't mind?
Jeez, it's my first directive.
Thanks,
Wow.
Mate. Now we're very happy to welcome the beautiful Big Mark Orval.
Oh, we don't get to soften that
Angry
little
Dad.
blow.
It's going to be great. He's come all the way down from his house, and Sam's just left. So
Sam Newman. How good was Sam Newman?
great,
It was good.
very intense.
So, Warwick, it's a killer double episode tonight. Coming up right now, we have got Mark Orval, Angry
Fantastic.
Dad, on the show. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Good on you, Marky. It is killed at the reality show, an online show. Fantastic.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck.
But hard act to follow. Sitting in the chair that Sam Newman sat in and has just left. I think the only thing Sam Newman and I got in common is prostate cancer. Everything else, I think he's just sort of, he takes the cake, doesn't he?
What about Lisa being over stiff in the chair?
I saw that.
I
I thought she was actually.
I said-
I thought she was cleaning it for me to sit on here. In case the shorts got dirty.
I thought it was a scratch and smell edition. I'm going, come on, mate. He's not worried about
I did see that.
Been in penthouse.
No, I did see it.
But Mark's a bit of a reality star like myself.
He is.
I did the first reality show, and then Mark followed soon after.
You blazed the
show
trail.
on Facebook and one of the biggest shows. What's it called? Fuck Off Dylan or something? What is it actually called, that show of yours?
Oh no, it's just
We love
the
it.
boys created a page, Angry Dad.
We love
Page,
it.
So it's
Yeah.
like, it's not called anything specific. It just happens to be a page that, for some stupid reason, managed to get a shitload of followers.
We love the pranks, man, Lisa. It's great.
Thanks, Wiz. I thought I'd at least get some support from you.
And his young son got me.
Yeah.
Done a few DJ jobs, and I was at the airport, and he's doing the cricket show, and everything's going well. I thought, I fucked him up. I've outsmarted him. Then he put fucking toilet paper in my ass, and it was 15 foot long, and no one knew for half an hour.
So you had a tail all around the airport.
Lisa didn't even tell me.
So try putting up with that for about 5 years around your house, mate.
I know.
You couldn't actually go to the toilet without thinking there's a camera somewhere in there.
I know.
It wasn't fun.
I bet it wasn't.
But I like pranks. I like getting shit and getting cop it back. I love it.
So, Mark, you first rose to prominence as a young,
Footballer?
aspiring VFL, AFL footballer, coming out of
In the 80s?
Hamilton Imperials.
Same era, Tony.
Yep, the same era as the Wiz himself. I'm
I
sure
actually
that's how
played
you
against
crossed
Mark.
paths.
I played against Mark in the twos.
You did?
I had a bad day, kicked 9.
Between Wiz and I, we played 131 games of serious AFL football, right?
I was going to say, yeah, between Warwick and I, we almost kicked 300 goals.
Yeah, kicked a lot of goals between us.
Yep.
Yep. Mark had a few injuries there, unfortunately. But,
Yeah, and so your
but he
football
played games,
career,
he got there. It's good
football
effort.
career was cut short through pretty significant injuries to your foot.
Correct.
Well, it's a bit sad when you reflect on your football career and you've actually had more operations than you've played games or goals that you've kicked.
Don't worry, there's half a million players who could then play one game.
Yeah, and
But you
look,
did.
looking back, that's the way you actually look at it. And I define my life now, basically based on a couple of words, right, that have helped me get through life and really deal with what you just said, Tony, that my dream was taken away from me. And it comes down to what I say is disappointment versus regret. And I've moulded my life on that and my kids' life. And
Because you're a bit down like that before, weren't you?
a long time. And
Yeah.
you know, my closest friends did not know the hellhole I was in for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And
Was that because it's
just
it's not what a man does?
that's right, absolutely. At the end of the day, I had two lives. So I had the life where I sat at home and actually laid on a couch and hid under a blanket for a long, long time and only attended or went anywhere that I really had to go with the kids.
Because the injuries in your career was cut short.
Well, the depression of losing your dream.
Yeah.
My dream was taken away from me, and that was fucking hard to deal with. And I come down at 16, packed the bags, never went home, and that was really hard. I'd cry every day because I missed my parents, but I said, you need to do this because this is what you've always wanted.
Yep.
And I'll never forget on the eve of my first game, it was against Hawthorn, and a bit of a captain's run back then, even Wiz, and which was a bit weird. We just had a little light training session, and I remember Clokey saying to me, so parents coming down, Orfs? And I said, no. I mean, how stupid am I? Mum and Dad said, we can't make it. Oh, fuck, can't make it. Of course they're going to be there, but that's how dumb I was. I was young. I was 18.
Yep.
Just turned 18. And I said, Clokey, it doesn't matter, mate. There'll be another 300 times I'll get a chance to come and watch it anyway, right? Not through arrogance, not through anything other than that was my dream. That's how I was going to be, right?
You had to be positive too.
Yeah, well, of course. And fucking how wrong could I have been?
Yeah.
You know, I was there 7 years. I played 7 games, kicked 7 goals, and had 9 fucking operations.
And
Yep.
when you first got selected in the senior team, that came as a bit of a shock to you as well, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I pretty much played with a broken foot for 2 years,
Yep.
right? So, and you know, at that point I was having needles to train, and they were questioning my mental capacity to deal with the demands of footy.
Yeah.
Because working all day, then training, and get over it.
What were you doing for work at the time?
I was a printer, actually. I worked with Gary Frangalis, Richmond Swans, you know,
Yeah.
and Billy Picken.
He's been here a couple
So,
times.
so you're on your feet the whole time, and then you go to training, and you know, you start to question yourself as
Yeah,
far
I mean,
as.
it's like you
Well, I thought I was a fucking sook, and I've got to trust these people. And this
Just
is
what, because you felt, I've got sore feet, what am I complaining about?
yeah, and you know, no one knows your body better than yourself.
In fact, they made you work because you weren't making that much.
But I'm fucking. Well,
I know.
you didn't make much.
Correct.
I talked to a mate the other day about that. It's $7,000, I think my contract was. But you trust
Hold
the
on,
people.
$7,000.
That was my base. Yeah,
Yep.
$7,000. I think it was $450 for a senior game.
And so, hold on, what year was this?
That's in 1987.
87.
Yep, 87.
That was the best,
$7,000.
that was the best year. I love that year.
I nearly kicked 103 that year, but then
In the
this
thirds?
prick next to me kicked 103 instead of that.
Yeah. Well,
I know. I did it in the big logo. It's hard.
well
like I said to you before, people think it's a fucking walk in the park. Oh, you're on $35,000 a week. You must love it, but it's fucking precious city.
It is. It's
Nightmare.
it is.
Everyone wants to knock your fucking head off.
And it's more pressure these days, more
It's
than
not,
ever.
it's not really much fun.
yeah, there's a lot of money in the game now. So, in terms of the injury itself, years later, is this something similar to what James Hird had with the stress fractures?
Exactly the same as what Hurd had. And if you look back on it, I was pretty much the guinea pig, to be honest.
Sure.
They learnt a lot about navicular stress fractures after my situation, because I'd have an X-ray, and X-rays didn't detect it, which is why they said it's ligament and it's muscle and it's all this, get over it, whatever.
So they thought you just needed physio.
Yeah, it was all about, exactly, it was about strengthening up your feet, right? And it was my left foot, it was only 1 foot. But then they chose to look at a bone scan, which then sort of took to the next level, and then MRI. And well, you know, I'll never forget the doctor looking at it, and he goes, "Oh fuck, you got a massive crack through there." Oh, fucking hello.
Really?
What have I been telling you? What have I been telling you? So I went straight in, had surgery at the end of '87, and you know, that was the only game that I look back on where I'd done okay and contributed. I felt in terms of wanting to achieve it. It was my 6th game. You like this, Wiz? I missed the week before because Jimmy Steins and I had a tussle in his first game. I got a week. Jimmy and I bashed each other behind play. I got a week. He got off. Yeah, I was happy with that. I actually had a bit of a friendship with Jimmy after
Yeah,
that.
he's a good bloke. We're trying to pass away.
He
Very
helped me.
nice
He
guy.
helped me get off and just get the 1 week, but that's another story. But so I played that game, had my first operation, and wow, downhill after that.
Wasn't there a particular moment, either like in a practice game or something, where another player had done something to impact your injury?
Not specifically, I don't think. You know, it was just stress fractures are pretty much just about repetition, right? They just gradually get worse. Hotspot these days, if you pick them up early, 6 weeks, you're right. You can. They treat it, they manage it, get you off your feet.
What's the process for repairing that sort of damage now?
Well, if you get off your feet, early detection, like a lot of things in life, then you should be okay. If not, pretty much what they do is they put a screw through it and just hold the bone together.
Because he was skillful.
Yeah.
The old man here.
Yeah, he was. He was very
Bit of
skillful.
bad luck.
I watched.
Injuries are fucking.
I watched.
You know, it's funny. Sorry, Winston. And this isn't about fucking blowing wind up my ass, but you know, only 2 years ago, I think it might be 2.5 years ago. No, it was last year. It was last year actually. I got a couple of messages just come through on my phone, and I was like, "Did you just hear Dacos on SEN?" Or I think it's SEN, or one of them anyway. I said no, and he goes, "They said listen to this and go and listen." I tracked it down.
He's our neighbour.
Well, I know.
He's around the
He was
corner.
around the corner.
Only
So,
picking the kids.
well, he was a groomsman in our wedding, right?
Mm.
So he's a close friend. But you move apart a bit and all this. But my point here is, Dakes had just been on the radio and they talked about, I think it was 30 years from his debut, whatever it was.
The Macedonian marble.
Talked about the history.
Yep.
And he said how it evolved from when he was there in '87. Matthews got there 86, whatever, and he said then they built this crop of young kids. And he talked about McGuan's, Krasiskas, Monkhurst, Gavin Brown, this, that, and the other.
They had plans for you, didn't they?
Well, this is what I was sort of building up to.
Darren Lane.
For no other reason other than it sits really well with me as far as reflecting on my life. Dake said, he goes, "I still believe in all of that group, the best was Mark Orval.
They were building a
Yeah.
team around you, really.
Yeah, no, he was good. I remember.
Look, and yeah, I think I had something to contribute. Would
Yep.
be how I would describe it, but
The game can be so cruel sometimes.
it can be
It's
cruel.
all fucking head fuck.
It can be cruel.
I was saying to
Have
Lisa, I was just happy to get through fucking training half the time, just not get injured
Of
every week.
course, yeah, and people that play the game can relate to that, and it doesn't matter what level.
Yeah.
Clearly, the stakes are higher at
Yeah.
the ultimate level, but it helps me back on that disappointment versus regret. Those two words, it allows me to accept the fact that, you know what, I actually have no fucking regret.
Yeah.
Massive disappointment, and everyone has disappointment in their life.
That's what you're saying about the idea of regret versus disappointment.
Absolutely, 100%. I can sleep at night knowing I tried absolutely everything.
Because there's half-man players that are real skillful, but they're lazy cunts.
Yeah, of course.
And they haven't played one game.
And guess what? They go through life with
Yeah.
regret, absolute regret.
A lot of guys connect, I guess, their identity, their masculinity with something. Like if you're really good at one thing in this world, you're lucky,
Yes.
right? And if sometimes your character, your identity, your whole masculinity is tied in with that one thing that you're really fucking good at, whether you come through school and you're at the top of the class, or everybody says he's just a fucking weapon on the football field. To have that taken away would really,
That would be depressing.
it would really sort of like rip the kind of core out of your identity.
It does. And, I lived with McGuan Crasisco and Brett Glary at that point, right? So all of a sudden my life changed. I had to move out of the house that I'd lived with them for 4 years. And I was taking a different direction to them. And it fucking hurt.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, and I understand that, is that their life continues to focus on their sole task and job at that time, which is playing members of the Collingwood Footy Club. You go and get a fucking job now, Mark, and move into the next phase of your life. And that's fine,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm not the only prick this has happened to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's easy to deal with.
Because
No.
Lisa's old brother-in-law, was a pretty good player too. He told me he lived with played the same time as Chris Sisker and all them. They all made it, and he didn't.
Yeah, well, there you go.
He said he felt like killing himself. He planned it. He didn't jump another train. Too much, remember?
Just,
What
What's
kind
your
of support was
None.
available to you through
None.
the club,
Yeah,
through the system?
no.
No.
And I'm not going to turn this into a Collingwood bashing
No,
session, right?
but it's a different time.
There's
too.
none. There's fucking none, right? At the end of the day, I actually borrowed $1,000 off my fucking boss at the time to allow me to have the last operation to allow me to be able to fucking walk.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. He was a Perth-based multi-millionaire, and I didn't know how I was going to fucking get myself going again to be able to move into the next chapter.
Yep.
And he sent me a fucking check for $1,000.
Yeah, right.
I'll never forget it. Never forget it. Jeff Birch was his name. And
I did,
that's
Jeff.
well, yeah, 100%, right? These unsung heroes. He didn't want me to shout that out. Well, no one gave a fuck back then anyway. But you know what I mean? I was an employee of his, and he saw value in me because that was my move into sales and my corporate life,
Yeah.
etc. He didn't have to do it.
No,
He
of course
paid
not.
me every fucking month.
Yep.
So what? I don't think $1,000 back then was decent, and he fucking did it.
Yeah.
So they're little moments in my life that, and you're not being flippant, and it's not like you feel you deserved it and you should have got it, but you reflect more on it as you get older to say, what a fucking gesture that was.
Yeah, of
Didn't have
course.
to do it.
What kind of impact did your sort of dark clouds have on your relationship at home?
I had the most supportive missus you would ever want, and it's still the case today. Like, we've been married 30 odd years, and we're like every marriage, it's sort of up and down like a bride's nightie. And I know I use that saying every
Big
now and then.
Shaz.
Big Shaz. But she was a rock, right? Because the only people that knew about my dark situation was Sharon and my mum. Kids didn't know.
Yeah.
My dad didn't know. Mum didn't want him to know. So it was those.
Because he worried.
I just think it was that stigma around men's mental
Was-
health. And
was
dad was a caring person, but he was a bloke as well.
Yeah.
Right? And he loved his son.
Yeah.
Right? No doubt about it. It was just one of those needs to know type basis thing. And my mum had suffered from it. So there's probably an element of genetics in it as well.
Well, I mean, it's proven that it's hereditary in some cases.
I've learnt so much, Tony. Let me tell you, I've learnt so much about it. And the comforting thing is I'm still sitting here today and I can look back and reflect on I can actually help others. And I've done that my whole life, especially the last 5 years. I've helped so many people understand the fact that, you know what, you can get through it.
What sort of mechanisms have you put in place to manage it on an ongoing basis?
Fuck, it was hard, let me tell you. And
I mean, but it wouldn't just go away completely. Though,
no, it
would
doesn't. Never leaves.
Yeah.
Never leaves. But you know what you get to do? You get to understand the triggers, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the triggers that are so important, and there's many, and they're varied, right? The triggers could be avoid alcohol, right? It could be your friendship group.
Yeah.
Negative people bring you
Because it
down.
can be a downer.
Of course,
Yeah.
you know. And I was bad on alcohol. Let me tell you, if my kids did a third of what I did on alcohol when I first left footy, and that would be basically I'd go to a pub and all I'd want to do was punch someone. Someone would look sideways at Sharon from 40 metres away, and I'd punch him straight in the face. That's embarrassing. That's like, if my kids come home and said that happened, I would be ashamed of them. And I did that for 6 years.
And look, not that it.
I just couldn't deal with my emotion, and it was fueled by alcohol, which was so bad.
You know, going down the pub and getting into a blue back in those days was almost part of the cultural fabric.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it right.
No, that never makes it right.
Especially when you know you're the instigator, right? There'd be very, very few occasions where it was me looking for it, right? I was looking for it.
Do you think that over time that a part of what's made you reflect differently on it is the fact that this has connected you with your own empathy?
I think it's about I've got kids, right?
Okay.
And the reality is if I saw and knew that my kids were doing that, I'd be embarrassed. And I'd want to belt them myself.
Yeah.
Because no one should actually have to put up with that shit when you're out.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
But you don't want your kids to be copping it either.
No,
Yeah.
and that's right. And that's so you know what the thing is, if we condition society to not be doing that sort of shit, they won't do it and it won't happen to them. Now you've got to be a realist. That shit happens, right?
There's plenty of people worried, isn't there?
It just happens ultra, and you know you can link it to that one punch with Danny Green and all this sort of shit. The reality is my behaviour and the way I conducted myself was embarrassing. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
And I'm not too proud to admit it. It was disgraceful.
Yep. But I mean, I guess the way that we move forward is for people to change.
At least you did, yeah.
Well, you know, you change because you've learnt, right? You've actually looked at a situation and you go, that's wrong.
Yeah.
How can I do it different or better? And that's pretty much what... And hey, let me tell you, this only really, in terms of a milestone, the penny's fucking dropped. This has really only happened in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And that's why I eventually agreed to do the doco. And you know, when I did my doco, which again is about men's mental health and depression and sitting on a couch for 20 something years on medication for pretty much the whole time.
Really?
I fucking lived 2 lives. It's as simple as that, right? It was purely because I needed to actually come clean and be honest and truthful with myself. You know, I would take a tablet in the morning. It was in my car.
What were you taking?
It was a low van, right? But my kids from young would, Dad, what are you doing? And I would say I had fucking reflux. I got reflux. Kids, they don't know. They don't know. Okay, Dad's got reflux. Without that, I wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. Without professional help, and I say it in the doco.
Because you're that down.
Wiz. And alcohol fueled, but the biggest moment in my life is laying in the fucking car with the vacuum hose connected to your fucking exhaust with a photo of my family laying on my stomach.
That is terrible. That is real down.
How many years ago was that, Mark?
13, 14?
Yep.
14 years ago? That's in
So how old were your kids at that time?
Dylan's 28, so it's 14.
Tough time to lose a dad, isn't it?
Terrible. And I don't even know, the car was running and all, and there was a fleeting moment.
That is down, isn't
It
it?
was a fleeting moment where I basically said, I can't do this.
Yep.
And it wasn't about sympathy because no one fucking knew.
Yep.
Until I did the documentary, no one knew. Sharon didn't know. And I'll still never forget her talking about saying, the vacuum cleaner hose is fucked. What's happened here?
Yeah.
It fucking burned because it's on the fucking back of the exhaust.
You didn't have to.
No, because it wasn't for me. It wasn't about sympathy and looking for... And maybe there's a bit of a cry for help there in some respects. What it was for me was a fleeting moment to say, you've got to stop this shit. You've got to do something fucking more serious about your health. And I took it to a new... I was on medication and all that shit then, but I took it to a whole new level. And this lady was amazing for me. And I'll still... I forget her name now, but I still never ever forget. She taught me a saying which was called drop the anchor.
Yeah.
Right? And pretty much you look at a situation in a boat, you put the anchor and it drops overboard and your fucking boat's good. what's building up, what your issues are. Drop the anchor. Let them go. Let them go.
Yep.
Deal with it. Know what your triggers are. Drop the anchor. That's the only way I got through.
Do you still?
You still up in there?
100%. And you know, but to your point, Tone, it doesn't leave you, right?
That
But
doesn't
I'm really smart with the triggers now, right?
Do you still have someone to talk to?
My kids probably. Mitchell.
So you're really open about it.
100%, yeah. My kids cried their eyes out when they saw that doco, and they knew we actually watched it at home together.
Oh, what's that?
And it
Did
was
any of them recognise any of these elements in themselves?
Dylan, who had the same situation basically, drafted by the Crows,
Did he?
went there, rookie, because he was AIS, right? Did his knee, 16.
Is he the old one?
It's pretty much history rewritten again.
Yeah,
like
right.
it's fucking crazy how it all worked out for him, and I learned so much now because he talked in my doco about those bad thoughts that you should never have and burst into tears being interviewed. So in other words, you know, he didn't want to be here either because he couldn't deal with it. That's sad, whether it's your own kid or
So
someone
not
else.
making it? So
Yes,
it's
because it was his
written
dream.
down.
Liz. He
Yeah.
had so much
Yeah, I know.
ability, and it got taken away from him through no fault of his own.
Probably a bit
That
terrible.
would have been hard to watch as a parent.
Terrible, and that's why we have a really close bond. Our family's close anyway, but we're like every family. We argue, we fight, we
Yep.
yell, we swear, we love, we hate, and all this shit. But we've got each other's back, and I'll never forget those moments with that because I learned a lot more about Dylan in that doco than I'd actually known as his parent. And you'd think your parent knows everything about your kids. You fucking don't.
No, you
Yeah,
don't.
they hide things.
And you know, I think that when it comes to families that fight, I think that it's if you don't argue and you don't fight, then you're probably not living the full experience.
Yeah, of course.
Because you've really got to. Families push each other
Yeah.
and challenge each other, and if you keep it too safe and too distant, it's
Well, I
just
think
not real.
what most people will realise about our family is what you see is what you get.
Yep.
And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, I don't give a flying fuck. You know, zero fucks, mate. That's
Yeah.
my life now.
Yeah.
This is how I live my life.
Best way to be.
Zero fucks.
Yeah, outside of family.
If you worry about
Yeah,
what thing,
zero
so what-
fucks. But
Yeah.
I'm a hard ass even with the family, right? If one of them do something I don't agree with or believe in, and vice versa, don't worry. Mitchell's hit me up a few times recently, calling me a
Hard-ass.
weak. Called me weak. There's a certain situation recently, and he said to me, Dad, here's a test for you. I won't go into what it was. And I talked to him after this situation, and I told him what happened, and he goes, you failed. He goes, you're weak. You promised me this is how you would react and behave and all that, and you failed. That's weak, and I'm fucking really disappointed with you. And guess who was right? He was right.
So you
He was right.
Yeah.
He was right. So you learn from your kids.
Were
too.
you able to accept that in the moment?
Of
or
course.
did you-
One thing about me is I'm the first one to put my hand up and say I fucked up. I have been all my life. I will never ever hide from a mistake. Ever.
Good if you knew that, you move on.
No one's perfect. You weren't given a fucking rule book and say this is how you will live your life and everything will be actually perfect.
Has this one, mate? What you think about me is your business.
That's right. Absolutely.
I can't
Now, what
change-
you
I
think about
can't
me is
change-
none of my business.
I can't change
Simple
it.
as that. Yeah.
So they can't worry about it.
It's true.
You can't change their mind if they
Yeah.
think that.
Well,
It's the way it goes.
he just fucking swallowed his false teeth. Hang on, we'll take a break and be back with more in just a moment.
It's been fantastic.
Well, at what point did you find that copying an egg in the back of the head from the roof of the garage
Yeah, that was early.
was
mate.
changed your life?
Yeah, who would have thought, right? You know, and I talk to a lot of people, and the cold hard reality is, I sum it up as saying the world's fucking crazy, right? But what the boys ended up doing gathered some traction because it's so relatable. Not because it's me.
Everybody says, "Fucking, that's just like my old man."
That's exactly right. Any dad that's sitting on the couch trying to watch the news and the telly turns off or changes channels, he's going to react the same way. What the fuck's wrong with the telly? Fix the telly and yell at the missus.
Is that how it started?
No, that's just one example.
Then you
Yeah.
start
Oh, Mitchell, he
No,
reps.
Mitchell's out the front with the other Foxtel remote. He's
Yeah,
putting the show
changing
on, and Mitchell's switching it over to a
Yeah.
different channel, and he's losing his
One
shit.
of the Essendon players at that while Kevin Shee was talking.
See what I
He
mean?
had the same remote.
So
Just fucked him up.
it's relatable. It's relatable, and I have zero tolerance for fools.
Yeah.
Zero. And again, it doesn't make me special. That's just how I am, right? I love everyone until they give me a reason not to. And I've had close mates that I've for a long, long time, and they fuck me over, whatever. I don't care.
I know, it
I
does
don't
happen.
need to see them again.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't.
It does happen, yeah.
That's just how I am.
And that's fair enough too.
I see the best in everyone
Yeah.
until there's a reason not to.
Mm. I've had 3 or 4 of those.
It's true, Wiz. And you know what? Life's fucking short, mate, and you learn that pretty quickly. So, you know, it's just a journey that you get thrown shit and you deal with it. So you got to sift the good shit and the bad shit, and I just sift all the bad shit. It's as simple as that.
Correct. If people see the easy thing of league football, they think it's, they go to me, oh yeah, Warwick's lucky, you're fantastic. And like, I have all the bad games, and 3 years can get
Wiz,
there, make it nothing.
Wiz, luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Correct. Flogging yourself in the thirds.
But
11 months here, just get a game. They think it's easy.
people are ignorant. They have no appreciation for that.
Yeah, no.
They have no appreciation for it.
So when you train 10.5 months a year, busting your gut to your spew,
They don't want to know that.
that's a bad way to do it.
They just think footballers are just overpaid and
Yeah,
it's
no.
all glorified shit. Well, you know what? Have your opinion, respect that, whatever. But
Yeah, correct.
you know what? You should only have an opinion. They're opinionated. They don't have an opinion.
Because they haven't done it.
They don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know.
So, Mark, another challenge that you've had on your plate in recent time is that you were recently diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Yep. Hey, yeah, how you feeling today, mate? Is it in remission and stuff? And
You know, the thing is, how do I feel? I feel shit house, right? And when I say that, that's just because mentally, and until you've been through it, and so many more blokes go through it than you would ever imagine, right? And it's true of every illness, every disease, and especially that C word, right? The minute when you get
It's
that
fucking
call,
scary,
it's life changing.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And I say that physically, I'm feeling probably the best I've felt. 6 weeks post-op now, so it's still pretty early.
Yep.
But I've sort of got off my ass in the last 7 or 8 weeks, just being home on my own, and I walk every day. My mate has forced me to do that. Ex-Collingwood Hawthorn guy, Glenn Howard. You won't know him, Wiz.
good for your body, good for your mind.
He's forced me to do it, and it's just been the best thing. It's actually helped me physically,
And
but mentally, I can tell you now, Tony, up until I got my last test results, which were 10 weeks ago, because I've got more in 2 weeks, I cried every day for the last 8 months.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Can we just jump back
Yeah.
to
Every day.
how did you discover it?
Just a routine checkup.
So what
Blood
is
test, I overweight, right? I'm 140 kilos.
that? Do you have any diabetes or anything
No,
like that?
not at this point.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
thank God, the good Lord's looking after me at the moment. So I would have a checkup every year, purely on the back of Dad being a sort of type 2 diabetic, and I eat shit, right? Sharon she's got the best rig for a 57-year-old you'll ever see, and eats healthy and all
Good
this
rig,
shit.
ain't
She tries,
Yep.
but I'm hopeless. So cholesterol and sugar.
I did see a clip where maybe you'd
Yeah.
promised the family you were going to go on a health kick, and then
Yeah.
they followed you down to KFC and busted you.
Yeah, I've been caught a few times on a number of things.
Because sugar turns into fat. You go too late.
They got the typical response.
Yeah,
Fuck off and leave me
Well,
alone.
there's nothing worse than being caught with a fucking KFC fucking wing or nugget in your fucking mouth, is it?
I'm
And
hungry.
when it's least expected, right?
You're not supposed to, yeah.
Well, I was sort of sucking it in. I'd been on the piss the night before, thinking I'm still looking alright. Looked like a fat Alirani Hippopotamontosaurus, but I still went to KFC because that's just how you recover.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So a regular blood test is
Regular blood
how
test.
it unfolded.
And Dylan, I'll never forget. Dylan and I had done a deal with was Hoyts or whatever, and we had a VIP, just a 2 of us screening of this new film they'd released, and we were just really upbeat and jovial. I mean, Mum had just recently died, and it was really sad, but it was me and him going out, right? And my phone rang in the car, and it was the doctor, and I said, "Oh fuck, okay, what is it, sugar or cholesterol?" He goes, "Mark, you need to come and see me tomorrow. Your prostate is off the fucking charts."
Mm.
And it fucked the
That'd be
night.
scary.
It fucked the night because we were going
Yeah.
there to eat some nice food, do all this sort of shit, and I was numb basically.
No, you can't relax after that.
I couldn't relax, and you know, it's the worst feeling. And even though he said, "Nah, you'll be right, you'll be right, yep, you'll be right, all right."
Sure, see yourself, wouldn't you?
You'll be right.
I would.
So basically, within 3 weeks, I saw him, had the old digital validation the next day because the urology, my surgeon ended up being there at the same time. I had MRI, I had biopsy, I had PET scan, and I had the prostate removed within 3 weeks. It was a Gleason's 9, which is, in terms of the cancer level, it was aggressive.
That was good to
And
move.
it needed to happen.
You gave Murray up, didn't you?
I gave Murray up, yeah.
He was going to make it wait for a
Yeah,
while.
I gave
So
Murray up.
how long ago was that?
I had the operation on the 13th of April this year, so it's new. So the recovery for me now is as much mental as it is physical, because
Because you're worried about it.
well, it's cancer, right? And we believe it fits into the early detection basket, regardless of the fact it was aggressive and it was a bleeding line, all the bad shit, right?
When was the last time you'd had a test?
I'd had a test in September 2019,
What's
so it's
basically
18
on
months.
Why did you wait 18 months? Would you normally get it done annually, or
Yeah,
was it because of COVID?
It was because of COVID.
Because of lockdown?
Yeah, it was because of COVID. So September 2019, and then I would normally have it in the Feb, and I started a new job, went to America, and was over there 4 weeks, got back, did the doco, launched it, lockdown, COVID, right?
Yep.
And then I fucking didn't have it till this March this year.
Yeah, they don't believe how prevalent it is.
Well, the reality is early
Isn't it?
detection is critical,
Yeah.
and you've just got to do it more often than less often.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know,
Well, you did.
just
did.
It might
getting
be
some
that.
just getting some
Mate.
basic blood work every year.
It's easy.
Yeah.
You know what? I would even say every 6 months, and you know what? The health system will say, "Oh, you can't fucking do that because then you're an imposter on the health system." You know what? We're dealing with people's lives, mate.
Yeah.
A blood test is so simple and easy,
Yep.
and for blokes, doesn't matter if you're fucking 40 or you're 75, makes a massive difference.
Early detection's the key, right?
It is
Yeah,
the
I've done it
absolute
3
key.
times. I've done it 3 times,
If it's in your family,
Sure.
one person, you've got twice the likelihood. If it's got 2 people, not even direct, this can be indirect family, whatever, you've got 5 times the likelihood. Now, as it turns out, there's a history of it in my mum's side, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So my boys, my advice to them is, at fucking 30, you're going to the first one. And you might not
Yeah.
have the second one till 35,
Yep.
but you start seriously looking at it at fucking 35, but have your first one at 30.
Have
Haven't
you
done
checked?
it.
Yeah.
Well, mate, they're not going to turn you away because you want to go and get a PSA test, and if they turn you away, you fucking slam their head into the desk, is how I would react to that. No, because you can't be a transaction when it comes to your life.
Of course.
When you have a
Of course.
history of it, right? Doctors, and again, not beating doctors up, they look at situations transactionally.
Yep.
The patient is looking at it from a health and a life thing. You got family. You want to live to 100 if you can, right? Then you work backwards, and you don't fucking always believe the first thing you're told. And if you're not happy with it, you go with your gut feel.
Correct.
And that's my advice to everyone.
Never everything I say.
No, of course. It's your life. You get one crack, and you know what? It's easy to say, "Fucking, we didn't follow that, but we should have." But I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Oh, it's my fucking life. Oh, I know, but these things can happen.
But the good thing, mate, you got through it,
Yeah,
and lucky you did get tested.
I'm feeling
Fantastic.
I'm
That's
feeling
good.
pretty good.
And you went back to Queensland like me?
Yeah,
and
moving
Lisa?
up to Queensland. Wiz, I'm going to be the only prick on the Gold Coast on the beach in a fucking wetsuit with this rig. Let me tell you, mate. This body will not be on the beach.
I'll get you to Warwick have a training fitness camp on the beach.
Then you get a large tub of sunscreen, mate.
Oh, mate. Oh, look, you know, I'm
I'll
just
train with you.
I'm just looking forward to a new chapter.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. And you know, you look at your life.
So we're doing.
Well, you look at your life, and what happens is your kids grow up, they become totally independent, and they don't need you. And that's not being nasty, and they don't need you. They have their own life, their own kids, etc. So then you play a grandparent role, right? And it's hard to transition to that because you still think in some respects you can keep telling your kids what to do, but you can't. So we're actually transitioning into that grandparent role, which is almost about filling them up with fucking chips and chocolate and Fanta and then send them home.
That's what I'm
And they
looking
hope
for.
they don't sleep for 3 days.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Is good.
That's what I'm looking
Sound
forward
right?
to. I'm going to fuck Mitchell up massively.
My
when I
son
do
makes
that.
a fucking kid.
I'm going to say, we'll go after your kid for 2 nights, and he won't sleep for a week after that, and he'll be ringing me saying, "What you do to him?" I say, "Mind your own fucking business."
I'm looking forward
That's
to it.
what I'm looking forward to.
too. That would be good.
Speaking of Mitchell, you've got a documentary called "Fuck Off Mitchell: The Angry Dad Story," and it is a phenomenal watch.
You know, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I say that because I was so reluctant to pull my pants down, right? Because again, this is what I did, Tony, before I and we filmed this over about 4 months. But what I did before the launch was, because there was about 300 people invited,
When did that come out, mate?
last March, so 18
Yep.
months ago.
Not to watch it.
I actually, again, all my friends that knew none of this is my close fucking Collingwood friends as well as my friends growing up. I actually sent them a note and I said, I hope today or tonight actually helps you understand the situation over the last 30 years since I've known you guys, and it doesn't actually act as an excuse for some of my behaviours.
But it might
It
make some
allows
sense
you
of it.
to understand.
Yeah.
And
What you're
yes,
going through, what you're
and
going
you know, I had so many of them ring me or ring in tears saying,
Yep.
Orbs, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah. No, you can't.
I didn't want to tell anyone. Right? I got a message from Paul Smith, his name is, played in under-19s with him, cracking bloke, lives out of Greensboro. The message I got from him was unfucking believable. He just said, Orbs, why the fuck didn't you reach out and talk to us and tell us? Well, the simple answer is you don't.
You're putting a
Yeah,
brave face
it's
on
not,
it.
it's just not that
You
easy.
just don't do it. But you know what? The support I got
Yep.
was unbelievable. But more so, Tony, what it's actually allowed me to do, and I'll reflect on all this stupid angry dad shit, right? One way. And that way is I've got to meet some unbelievable people, Wiz included, right?
Yep.
And I don't say that flippantly, right? I say that because it's genuinely how I feel. And I wouldn't have got to meet him if it wasn't through this angry dad shit. So my legacy...
You can be Emmy friend one of those.
I remember I was with fucking exactly
Rocky.
Rocket, and he still messages me. Rocket, I love him. He's a cracking bloke. But you know, so my legacy I will leave is that through.
Rocky the fireman.
He's a cracker, mate. He's just a ripper fella. If the legacy I leave is that through
Right.
the shit that I put up with, it's managed to get people from a really deep, dark place.
Yep.
Then I'm actually happy with
That's
that.
it, yeah.
And that's exactly how it is. And you know, I've talked to people on the phone out of suicide.
Yep.
And it sounds crazy, but it's fucking true. My phone doesn't stop with people saying thank you. And that's in Ireland, the US, fucking around the whole world.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
People saying thank you because
It's a
without your
terrible thing.
videos, I would not be here.
I know, it's spot on.
So it seems crazy, but it's fucking true. So I look at it and go, I think I was meant to use my situation to fucking help people.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with that, even if at my expense.
That's better
I've
than
been
the football
tortured.
career, mate.
Well, I've been tortured for that period. I'm happy with that. I'm actually happy with it.
Yep.
And I don't leave any stone unturned. I helped a girl 2 days ago. She fucking messaged me. She's got 2 young kids. I'm being kicked out of my house on the 27th of December. I've got nowhere to go. Well, I reached out and she's going to have accommodation now. I did that within 2 days.
Yeah, nice.
How good is that?
Yep.
And I don't say that to get...
You don't realise how prevalent it is there.
No, you don't.
There's a
Exactly.
lot of people that need help.
There is.
I work with 2 girls in a hot house and they both committed suicide.
And you know, what do you say to
And
something like that?
sick.
Because they leave a fucking family.
Can't believe it, yeah. Because you got hate messages for years, you couldn't handle it.
Well, sadly,
The trolls.
I suppose
There's one more. I don't know.
I probably spent too much time on my phone, but you know what? I feel guilty. If I missed a message where someone was crying out for help, I couldn't live with myself. It's as simple as that. And I know it consumes you, but you know what? That's my contribution back through all. And I've made a really good friendship with a guy as a result of the prostate cancer. His 2 daughters, one lives in Noosa, one lives in Adelaide, reached out to me and said, Dad's just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. We can't get to him because of COVID. He's in a bad way. Well, I see him on a Saturday and have a coffee with him, and I'm his shoulder to cry on as far as that's concerned because he struggled dealing with it.
Yeah, well,
That's my contribution. Because you know why? Because if I didn't have these 5 people when I got diagnosed with prostate cancer, I don't know how I would have fucking coped. And one of those guys, and I put a post on Instagram a few months ago about this guy. His name's George. He's 72. Never met him, spoken to him, and via email. This guy's 72, and I want to what George has done for me, and how he has helped me and reassured me. I want to be the George for other people.
Yep.
And this guy is one example of it. And again, I've
that's
helped.
That's a good trade.
Well,
Doing that.
it doesn't cost you anything, Wiz.
You're helping people, yeah.
But the other thing too is that
It's good, yeah.
the process of actually helping other people heal is also medicinal for you.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it's more than a contribution. Right? At the end of the day,
It brings you back to life when you think you can die. That's happened to me when I burst appendix and I was in the hospital
Yeah.
2 weeks and I could have died of septicemia, and then there's 3 guys all had prostate cancer all taken out.
So, mate,
You realise, fuck.
well, you don't know. And
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if
it
you're
can happen pretty quick, can't it?
fucking 30 or 50, right? We're not here forever. And the older you get, the
Yeah.
more you realise that. And it's just
Yeah.
how my life has evolved.
So it's the message is get tested regularly. The documentary,
Don't be shy.
the documentary Fuck Off Mitchell, the Angry Dad story. We're going to put a link to that on our social pages, and obviously anything that can connect people to yours.
So that can help people, yeah.
You've obviously got a huge following already, but yeah, we'll do our bit to try and share that. There's a Movember connection to the documentary. How does that connect?
Well, it was done in conjunction with them because at the end of the day, it was about raising money and a beneficiary, right? And Movember are very, very active in the men's health, mental health space, and they were just a perfect fit.
Yeah,
And it was a really, really good partnership, and they were fantastic, super, super supportive, and it worked perfectly, and someone had to benefit from it, and we were just really happy to partner with them because they're global, right? So it's hard to get the ear of some of these charities who are really committed and serious about the cause and want to really work with you rather than just take the proceeds. So we couldn't be happier than that. And geez, it's
good partner.
Well, it's fucking 2 years ago now that we started filming all this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it goes fast.
It does go fast, and so much happened since.
And it just seems to ramp up the further we go down the road, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know why? That's through education and acceptance and people actually being prepared to talk about it. Because without that, there's that stigma, that layer would still exist. And we talk about the suicide rate of males these days. It would be way worse if all of a sudden that stigma still exists. It's critical for blokes. Yes, of course. It's
just stuck at home, no job, no loss of money.
Well, it's gone through the roof as far as that's concerned. You won't hear about that though, will you?
No, they keep that quiet.
You won't hear about
Domestic
it.
violence is bad.
Well, Mark, mate, thank you for coming into the show and sharing your stories. I think that when people like you talk openly about these things and
people,
and show the vulnerable side of it, and I just think that it just provides, hope and an opportunity for people to hopefully find a way through it.
Well, I'm more than happy to be here. Wiz a good fella. He's been a classic since the day I met him at Big Park. He talks about taking speckies on me and kicking 7. He didn't. I kicked 7 on him, but I just told him I'll never tell any prick that. But
I was talking about Mark, my favourite subject myself. And he wants to run away. I showed me highlights that he can't go home.
Yeah, well, I mean,
your highlight reel's a little bit longer than
we've
mine.
still got it on pause upstairs.
It's been going 5 months, my highlights.
Yeah, but you know what, Tony? Look, I was more than happy to come in. I appreciate the opportunity to have a chat, and life is about being real, right? Yeah. When you're real, you can deal with scenarios and situations, and people just need to understand and accept that. And there will always be the haters, right? There will always be the haters, no matter what you're talking about or dealing with.
You can't please everyone all the time.
You can't, and that's why I give 0 fucks, mate, about any of that shit.
You can only please some of the people some of the time.
That's right. And more people need to sort of use that as the mantra and as the driver to get themselves through life. But been great having a chat, mate.
No, sage advice from Mark Orval, Angry Dad, the documentary Fuck Off Mitchell, the Angry Dad story. You can find the link on the T-Wiz podcast Instagram and Facebook page as soon as we get off from this.
And that'll help some people. It's great.
Mark, what are your social pages?
Instagram is at It's Angry Dad, and then there's the boys got the Facebook page still that.
It's Angry Dad, ITS Angry Dad.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's just a Facebook page that just sort of just churns along. But you know what? It's still servicing people's needs and giving a bit of a laugh, and that's all that matters.
All right, mate, you turn your life around, you get to the other side, fantastic, and we're going to be able to have a good time in Queensland retiring.
Well, we need more of a laugh. Thank you, Angry Dad. Mark
We love him.